Friday afternoon in Australia, Friday morning wherever you are. It's our weekend, almost your weekend, and it's just Spoon and Eric here on the Weekend Pickoff on Baseball Expats. Expats. What are we? I don't know. It's the weekend. That's what a Monday to Friday job is doing to me right now, Spoon.
Yeah, we can be Expots when Rolsey isn't here and Expats when he is here. It's like a sub-brand.
We're not going to take much of your time today, right? Like we're going to talk about some weird things maybe that we saw in the baseball world today, a quick update on the Destiny draft, and then what you're here for to get a couple tips for the weekend. But it must be said that it's kind of funny that as soon as our teams start heating up, Rolsey and his Cardinals, who have lost 3 of 4, including a couple to the Royals, who he has been bagging all season long. He actually said at the beginning of the year, I can't see the Royals making the playoffs. They're not a playoff team, when they're literally were a playoff team last year. Kind of funny that he's not showing his face all of a sudden after ours are going well and his aren't.
Yeah, he was, I think he jumped on 45 minutes early last Monday after the Cardinals swept the D-backs. He was just sitting here waiting for me. But our fortunes start to turn and he's nowhere to be found.
Well, we want to talk about a couple tiny things that happened. And Spoon, I'm not going to put words in your mouth at all here. I'm going to guess you want to talk Diamondbacks about stuff that's going on in the world right now?
A tiny little bit, if there's a minute for me.
Let's go Diamondbacks minute here.
All right. So I don't know if anyone hasn't seen what happened in today's game. I beg you to watch the highlights. This was one of those ones that was, I think it was like a lunchtime start in Atlanta. So it was literally a 1:30 a.m. game here in Australia, which made it impossible for me to watch. It's funny. I've got someone I speak to over in Arizona who I met when I went over for the World Series. First thing I did this morning was check the box score. Second thing I did this morning was open her message on WhatsApp that said, I hope you see this message before anything else. Please go watch the game highlights, not knowing the score. So if I'd done those the other way around, I probably would have been in for a treat. Unfortunately, I'm too D-backs unwell, and it was literally the first thing that was in my mind when the alarm went off. I knew I was in for a treat even just watching the highlights when it got to the top of the ninth. The D-backs are down 10-4, and the 14-minute video was about 8 minutes in. Like half the highlights were still yet to come. It was unreal. I mean, I feel for Braves fans because they've kind of out D-backs the D-backs. Score 10 runs and lose. That's been our MO throughout the year. We've talked about that stat a few times. The craziest thing I saw with today's win, they improved their record to 2-3 in games they scored 10 runs. That's Arizona. So, yeah, look, a few days is a long time in baseball, obviously, but a couple of these games. I mean, yesterday was a 2-1 game where the bases were loaded in the 8th and the 9th, and the bullpen somehow got out of it, thanks to Justin Martinez. These are games that a week ago, you're losing. And it's amazing what you look back down the line, September, October, and you go, was that the season-defining moment? Was that the win where, full count Austin Riley, go down and away with a splitter? If he takes that, the game's tied. We probably go on to lose it, and then we probably lose today instead. Ultimately, you win both games by a run, and you come away with a sweep, and you're back to 500. So, yeah, I mean, they say a week's a long time in baseball. It's not even been that. I think we were talking 4 days ago. But maybe there's a little bit of life out in the desert. And you were the one who told me it wasn't all doom and gloom.
Well, but you also said that you were worried about the Atlanta Braves, to be fair, right? Mm-hmm. Because I made the point that you were 5 games back and you only had to leapfrog 2 teams. And you said, yes, but we're kind of tied with the Atlanta Braves right now, and they're a team that's making a charge.
Yeah.
You kind of figure that one of these teams outside a playoff spot is going to get in. The D-backs feel as good as a bet as any of the teams outside of it. But you were right about Atlanta. Like, there's so much talent on that team. If it comes down to a game again this year, just like it did last year, you could look back on this series and say, man, if we had lost one more game against the Braves, that's a 2-game swing, right? Like, that could be the difference.
Yeah, well, both of them, really. I mean, the 11-10 today is obviously remarkable, but the 2-1 yesterday, where it was literally bases loaded twice, both times with 1 out, they needed a run. I mean, I ventured into, I don't know what you want to call it, a guilty pleasure, I guess. I ventured into Braves Reddit this morning after today's win. They're convinced now anyone not named Baldwin, Acuna, or Schwellenbach nailed pronunciation, should be gettable. Like, they are convinced it's sell now time. They're 7 games below 500, and they're pretty convinced that, given the strength of the NL East as well, with the Phillies and the Mets both looking unstoppable, that it's time to call it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
The beauty is there's still 100 games to go, but we've kind of hit the point of the season that you just kind of know a little bit who teams are, right? 60 games is not a small sample size. It's 2 solid months of baseball. So there's still room for teams to improve, yes, but you kind of have some worrying trends about what the fabric of each team is. And Atlanta now have gone through 2 rough patches, but they've also had a good patch too. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be one of Atlanta or Arizona, that will sneak in, and maybe this series went a long way in determining that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, we talked at the start of the year when I made that outlandish call about Acuna potentially getting traded. AA is not scared to make a big move. I think the one thing we know the Braves won't do is nothing. They're either going to buy, because they're actually in a very similar spot win rate wise that they were this time of the year, that year that they went on to win the World Series. The other thing that they might do is sell and be one of the few teams that are selling top pieces come the deadline. But yeah, I don't think they're going to do nothing. I think within 2 to 3 weeks, the Braves look very different.
Well, I also want to talk about a series that was watched in person, at least, by tens of people, with the Colorado Rockies and the Miami Marlins this week. Now, the Colorado Rockies, they won. They're on a proper winning streak, a 3-game sweep, a series win. And not only does this move them, well, the record is bad anyways, but did you see how relevant this is in terms of the all-time win percentage of MLB franchises?
No. What have they done? So
the Miami Marlins have just been passed by the Colorado Rockies in this series, because of this series, by 1/1000th of a win percentage point. By just 2 wins exactly, the Colorado Rockies have passed the Miami Marlins, and the Miami Marlins now hold the worst winning percentage in the history of Major League Baseball as a franchise in total, only behind the Colorado Rockies. And it was because of this 3-game sweep that they earned and swapped that position. So our Rockies, when the chips were on the table, they got it done with a sweep.
I think
ruined one of our bets though, Max Mayer. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. He was cooking early as well. I put out there on Twitter, I thought he might have been tipping pitches, because he went from like unhittable. I'm not good enough at looking at pitcher mechanics to actually tell myself whether someone is tipping. But when a guy's going like whiff after whiff after whiff, and they're swinging outside the zone and in the zone, to sitting perfectly off speed stuff, timing it up, middling it up, like it almost happened immediately, like they figured something out. And that actually, I think there's someone who's definitely been doing that, which is going to be my talking point to bring to the table. But on yours, yeah, I'd be amazed if we don't see that Rockies and Marlins winning record change about 50 more times throughout this year, because they're both going to be prone to 6-7 game losing streaks and then a little ray of sunshine in amongst the clouds.
Or forever. This could just be that conversation. I had a couple other weird stats for you before I throw it back to you. This one goes back to June 1st, though, so back on the weekend. You would have seen the Dodgers win 18-2 over the New York Yankees.
Yeah, that was the unrecorded or the recorded but the unposted episode of the Weekend Pickoff from last week. I was very keen on the over 9.5 in that game. So my best ever win as a pod pick never went out there, and it dominated it. It was similar to your under 8.5 a couple of weeks ago that was like 1-0 or something like that. Like you could not see it any better than that. I had my moment, but the only person who will ever know is Rolsey.
Did you see, though, there a bit of weird sports trivia history was made on that day?
No.
So on June 1st, or I guess May 31st in the States, but June 1st our time, on the same day, the New York Knicks lost to the Indiana Pacers in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA, 125-108. The Yankees lost 18-2 to the Dodgers. It's the first time in history that an NBA and an MLB team from the same city on the same day has lost by 15 or more.
Yeah, wow. That, I guess,
you want to talk about sports pain?
A bit had to happen there, right? Like even for the basketball team to still be playing, or vice versa, there's only little bits of overlap. So you'd need a team to be going into the playoffs to begin with whether that's, October and it's the start of the NBA season and it's baseball playoffs, or it's like March and it's opening day baseball getting to the tail end of the NBA. And you'd probably need not every city has a team of both. So I guess it's not that crazy that it's never happened, but you would have thought somewhere along the way.
It is crazy that it's finally happened, though. That's just a weird thing to happen for both of them to lose by 15. The last one I have for you that caught my eye this week is with one of my favorite baseball players to watch. He's the reason I watch the Reds, the reason I think a lot of people watch the Reds, and it's Elly De La Cruz, right? Mm-hmm. But he has now passed the legendary Tony Gwynn in career strikeouts. So Gwynn played 2,440 games in his career, and he struck out just 435 times. De La Cruz has now struck out 435 times, and it took him just 319 games to do it. Last year, he obviously led the majors with 218 Ks, and Gwynn never struck out more than 40 times in a season. So, in quite literally over 2,000 games less, Elly De La Cruz has officially more big league strikeouts than Tony Gwynn.
Isn't it crazy how much baseball has changed? Like, not even just generationally, but like in the last few years almost. Like, I remember guys 4 or 5 years ago, if they were striking out that rate, were just not getting everyday ABs. Like, you could be a guy that we call off the bench to pinch hit, knowing that we're kind of cooked either way if you strike out. There's no way we're letting you go up there and take 4 ABs a game. But because, I guess, of what he brings elsewhere, right? Like, he's the best stolen base threat in the sport. He has that insane pop. He's switch hitting. It does sort of counter it. If he had one less tool, the crazy arm, obviously defensively as well. You remove one of those tools, it's probably a different equation. It's a testament to every other ability that he's got, that he is so awful at making contact, and he's still the first name on the team sheet every single day. Crazy
stat, though. I love it. All right, what do you got for me? What caught your eye?
I'd like to just, whether we call it a funeral or not, I'm not sure. There's a guy, you could probably call him a friend of the pod, maybe a former friend, or a name we like and have spoken about a lot. The Jesus Lizard, Jesús Luzardo. He was just trucking along nicely, having a really solid season for the Phillies. And you'll notice that I'm using past tense because his last 2 outings have been horrific. He started today against who was it? Was it the Blue Jays today?
The Blue Jays, baby. The Blue Jays won that series. They also had that weird Trevor Hoffman versus Jordan Romano 9th inning a couple games ago where Hoffman got the save, or he was in the game. He basically got the hold, and then Romano gave it up. I loved it. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So it was against the Blue Jays today. His stat line, 2.1 innings pitched, 9 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 8 earned runs. He did almost the exact same thing, I'm pretty sure, against the Rockies or someone last week. In 2 starts, his ERA has jumped from 2.15 to 4.46. Like, we are now a third of the way through the season. To be able to do that as far as moving the needle, he's got a lot of innings pitched as well, so it's not like we're talking a small sample size. On Fangraphs, his WAR dropped from 2.5 to 0.6. Like, his 2 outings literally cost him 2 wins above replacement. I don't know. Like, that has to be he's hurt and he's pitching through it, or he's tipping pitches, because he was unhittable for 6 or 7 starts this year. He was always a threat for double-digit strikeouts. I've liked watching him for a long time. Like, I watched him. Where was he? He was Marlins, and before that he was the A's or someone like that. I think. Like, I've watched this guy for years, and it seemed like he'd found his spot in Philly. It has gotten ugly in a hurry, and I don't know what they're going to do, because 2 starts in a row of 8 earned runs or more, that's almost like phantom IL territory. When they just put a guy on the IL for 15 days and say, like, yeah, he's got hamstring tightness or whatever, but it's actually like, mentally, we need you to go and reset because something isn't working. I'll be very interested if he takes his next spot in the rotation.
They were saying that in the Jays broadcast too, that he's given up 20 runs in his last 2 starts, and that's like less than 6 innings total. Like, it's crazy, and it's not even walks, right? Like, it'd be one thing if he was walking guys and you're like, oh, he's just missing, maybe he can rein it in. But people are barreling off of him. He's got 5 walks in his last 2 starts. It's not even the walks there. It's 21 hits in less than 6 innings.
Which leads to
That's bad.
It leads to the tipping theory more, right, as well. Like, if you know what's coming, he's obviously got no issue throwing strikes. So even if he's getting into a 3-ball count, he's then going to his fastball, but they know it's a fastball coming. Like there's, something's gone wrong there in a hurry. And as a guy that I've really enjoyed watching this year, I want to get it out of the way now and just mention it today so that he doesn't have to be dubbed as ugly or anything like that when we talk Monday in greater detail. But rest in peace, my small little investment on Jesús Luzardo to win the Cy Young, because I can officially rip that ticket up right now.
It's not happening. We're going to get to your picks, and I got a couple as well for you after we review our Destiny draft. But one more for you, Spoon. I just wanted to get your feel on probably the series to watch this weekend, which is the two best teams in baseball, Cubs versus the Tigers. Has a nice little feel for it. But I'm very curious to see just how good the Cubs are. We've heard you talk a lot about the Diamondbacks having defining stretches of the season and you having win expectations. How's these for the next series for the Chicago Cubs? They've got Detroit on the road, Philly on the road, then they're at home to Pittsburgh, then they're with Milwaukee, Seattle, St. Louis, Houston, Cleveland, St. Louis, Minnesota, and then the Yankees. And then it's the All-Star game. So between now and the All-Star break on July 15th, which is about 5 weeks away, they only have one series against a team as it stands below 500 and play some heavyweights in the mix. I think that this comes at a good time for the Cubs, right? They're going to know exactly who they are. If they can roll through this, they'll know what acquisitions they need to make by the trade deadline because they're going to be in the mix. Like their season's not going to be ruined, even if they go below 500 in this stretch, but it's a good measuring stick for them. I'm excited to see just how good this Cubs team is because I think we're going to learn a lot about them over the next month.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, nearly half of those series you just mentioned are divisional opponents as well. You know, those games are always kind of worth two. Rolsey's been lamenting the lack of progress that they've made on the Cubs because as much as St. Louis has been winning, the Cubs have kept winning as well. This is the chance for a team to actually make ground. On the acquisition front, you just mentioned, I mean, I think they've got to be the clear candidates to go out and get a top starting pitcher at the deadline. The lineup is just filthy defensively. That there's power, there's contact the whole way through. I don't think you're looking at position players at all for the Cubs, but the flow-on effect of Steele being ruled out for the season quite early on this year. They've called up a rookie, their top prospect, Cade Horton, who has pitched well. But if you're calling up a rookie pitcher typically in like early May, you actually just can't rely on them down the stretch because they don't have the volume in the arm. So look out for the Cubs to go and get one of those top guys from a selling team. And if it's someone like the Braves and he's got 1 year left on his deal, why isn't Chris Sale or someone like that the piece that the Cubs go and give a prospect or two for to Atlanta, restock their farm? Chris Sale's been unbelievable for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I could easily see, a team like the Cubs kind of going out, getting him as their ace, and then being a serious contender come October.
They play a pretty fun style too. They steal a lot of bases. They run the base well. They play good defense. Pete Crow Armstrong has become one of the best players in baseball. You're right. Starting pitcher, probably the link. All right. Speaking of starting pitchers being the link here, we did our Destiny draft on Monday. If you missed it, you can go back to Monday's episode and hear the results, although Spoon will read out the players for you. Effectively, what we do is we open up 2 packs of cards that Spoon has sitting at home. We don't know who's in the cards. We have literally no preparation for this draft except what's on the time. We rip open the deck. We pick 3 players each. We've got a scoring system set, and we have a little fantasy draft for the week based on who we rip out of these decks of Destiny. Spoon, how about our end of week update with a weekend of games still to go?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting spot. I mean, when we did this the first time, when we were giving a midweek update, we'd all had our starting pitchers go once, and we were waiting for them to go around a second time. This week was quite unique, as I'll touch on in a moment, but 2 of us, yourself and I, took a starter. They haven't had their 1 start yet. There was no one who was taking 2 starts within the week, or they would have been, sort of gold as far as commodity worth. So you and I both have our starters still to go. Rolsey went a little bit different. Our man chose to go with a closer. And so far that's given him a little benefit, which we'll talk about in a second. I'll break down the scoring from, I guess, worst team to best team so far. those familiar with the concept from week one will know that I'm always the worst team. So I've got Taj Bradley still to go. I think he goes on Sunday. I'm going to need a lot from him to get me out of the current hole I'm in. I've got Bryce Harper, who's currently contributed -1. So for the week so far, he's had 1 hit, 2 runs, 1 RBI. So that's +4. He struck out 5 times. So I've got a nice -1 from Bryce. And those who listen to Monday's episode they'll hear me say, it's a panic pick. It's pick 1. I haven't done any preparation. I'll take Bryce Harper. What could go wrong? This is the answer to that question. What could go wrong? And doing not much better is Gunnar Henderson. So 3 hits, 1 run, 1 RBI for a +5, but 5 strikeouts of his own has him on 0. So halfway through the week, with my 2 position players having played, I think 6 or 7 games between them, I'm on a lovely -1 with a lot of work to do heading into the weekend is probably an understatement. In second place, the man I just spoke of, Rolsey. So he took a manual Class A instead of, it was a pretty thin, you remember, Eric, it was a pretty thin starting pitcher pool. There weren't a lot of great options. I don't think there's anyone that you would call an ace, compared to the first time we did this. So the Class A option was a bit interesting. Those unfamiliar with our scoring, we give a point for every 2 completed innings pitched, and that sort of accumulates. But the problem is, compared to a starter who might go 6 and get you 3, your closer's probably not going to be doing that. But so far, Class A's turned in 1 appearance, with obviously 1 inning in his outing was a save, but 0 earned runs and 3 strikeouts has given him 3 points. If he's able to get another save this week, he'd pick up the point for another inning to get him to 2, probably another strikeout or 2, and potentially no earned runs. And he could be right around that 5 or 6 mark, which is pretty solid, and could it potentially be better than my Bryce Harper pick. So to round out Rolsey's team, he's got Freddie Freeman, who was intentionally walked a handful of times this week in the series against the Mets. Probably cost some RBI opportunities for Rolsey. But 4 hits, 1 run, 2 RBIs. It was +7, but then the 2 strikeouts brings him down to 5. And Gino Suarez, quite similar to my ideal kind of destiny draft player, does a little bit of hard work and then removes it all through the strikeouts. So 3 hits, 1 run, 2 RBIs, 6, -6 strikeouts. Gino's also on 0. So that's a trade candidate for my team. I think that's the kind of guy we like over at Spoon's Destiny team. We like zeros. We like negative numbers. Nothing too positive over here. So the 3 and the 5 from Class A and Freeman plus Gino's 0 has Rolsey on 8. And we'll round things out now with your team. You took my guy, my pronunciation eternal challenge, Spencer Schwellenbach. So he's yet to go around. I think he also pitches on Sunday, and that's obviously going to be a big swing for how your week's looking. You took Carlos Correa, and the logic behind it was sound. He's been red hot. Had a 4-game set, I think, in Sacramento, which is a real positive run environment. And I think they play someone else this weekend who's beatable as well. In his 1 game, he had a hit, 2 runs, an RBI. Then he struck out 3 times, finished the day on 1. Then he was scratched the next day with back tightness and hasn't been in the lineup since. So an injury cloud cost Rolsey with Dylan Cruz in week 1. It's something to watch now for Eric. If Correa doesn't get into the lineup in the next 2 to 3 days,
he'll be fine. He'll be fine. The report came out, said it's just sore back, which isn't a good thing, but apparently he's not going to miss time. So he's going to be – he was scratched in the lineup, obviously, but he'll be up against the Jays this weekend. He's not going to the DL. Okay. But I had a savior this week, our holy man. The bandbox that is in Sacramento, the last pick of the Destiny draft as well.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't even say this week. I'd say today. So for the week, your pick, Brent Rooker, 5 hits, 3 runs, 5 RBIs, then the 2 strikeouts for 11. But today he had 3-3-3 with 0 strikeouts. So 9 of his 11 points came today. And when we're talking about a weekly total of, my illustrious -1, Rolsey's 8, and you were sitting on 3 ahead of Rooker's game today, this is a very low-scoring week. So to pick up 9 in 1 game from Brent Rooker is massive. So, yeah, a few takeaways there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I picked Rooker for exactly this reason. I think I said it when I picked him, is that he's a boom-bust player, right? When I might need something in desperation, he can put up big numbers. My worry with Brent Rooker is that he could have an 0-for-4 game with 3 strikeouts, and then all of a sudden I'm getting pegged back a little bit. So it's kind of boom-bust. They're playing Baltimore, who are red hot right now this weekend. They're staying in that ballpark. More on that series, I think, a little bit later if we want to tip off some of our tips later on. But no, stoked with the Rooker one again. I think it's all going to come down to the pitching starts on the weekend, because you're still not out of this, right? Like, you've seen that in one game, Bryce Harper is very capable of going 3 for 4 with a home run and 4 RBIs, and then all of a sudden it's a 10-point night for you. You get a good start. There's 13, 14-point nights to be had for you. And the Phillies are due for a couple big games in a row. They've been struggling a little bit lately, and usually it goes through Bryce. I would look for the Phillies to have a big weekend this weekend. They're playing the Pirates,
At the Pirates, that does look like hitting a few into the river for Bryce, I hope. And I mean, like you said, the Taj Bradley start is going to be huge for me. I think Rolsey, when we did this week 1, he had that Sonny Gray start where he had like 8 strikeouts, 6 shutty, picked up like 11 points. And in a low-scoring week, a really good start from Taj Bradley along those lines, who does have the strikeout potential. And they're playing the Marlins. They're playing the Marlins at home. I could see Taj hopefully giving me something to work with, and then Gunnar, Henderson, Bryce, they can have a couple of positive games. I think if you look at that, we're over halfway through the week, 3 days to go. You're on 12. You probably win this week with 20 or close to. Maybe low 20s compared to, what did you win with week 1? 39 you had week 1, beat Rolsey's 37. I don't think you need mid-30s to win this week based on how it started.
I think 25 is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that'd be a winning score.
Rays also on that note, they're playing good baseball too, so you could be primed for a big week. All right, should we get to some picks on that theme, Spoon? Who do you want to start, me or you? How about we go 1-1? I go 1, you go 1, I go 1, you go 1. Let's mix up the flow.
Let's do it, man.
All right, well, I am going to avalanche a game, but I'll save that for last. I'm looking at this isn't crazy return for what it is, but it's something that I think you can get a little value from. So the Mets are playing the Rockies this week. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say avalanche the Mets. It's crazy. They're paying $1.40 right now to win. And normally you kind of stay away from those $1.40 markets, right? Because there's just no value betting in them, high risk, high reward. However, Juan Soto is heating up in a big way. He's got his little Soto shuffle back. His last 5 games, he's gone a game with 3 walks. He had a game with 1 hit, 4 total bases. It was a handy hit. He had a hit and a double. He had a homer, and he had 4 total bases going back in his last 5 games. So he's got 14 total bases in his last 5 games. One of those games where he had no bases, he walked 3 times, and he's only struck out once. And his whole body language looks so different right now. And he's going to play the Colorado Rockies. So I think it's a good time. And what I'm going to jump on tomorrow is Juan Soto, 2+ total bases into the Mets win. It gives you about 240 odds if you sandwich them together, which isn't too bad. All I'm basically saying is Juan Soto to have, like, the Mets are going to win this game. The Rockies are not winning 4 in a row, and they're not going to beat the Mets. So basically all I'm saying is give me 240 for Juan Soto to have 2 hits, and I'm going to take that bet every day. So that's what I'm going with for bet number 1.
Did you see? I watch so much weird baseball content. I can't stress enough how sick I am for this sport. There was a clip. There was a clip in the Mets Dodgers game yesterday. They were cutting to the guys in the Mets dugout, and they were like on the steps of the dugout. And they were all trying to do a bottle flip, right? Like there was about, I don't know, water bottle 1/3 full, trying to flip it, see if they could land it. 4 or 5 guys there. They've all failed.
First go.
And then Soto comes up and just hits it first go. And then he just walks off, goes down the dugout like it's just the best thing ever. And that's, to your point, like the body language changed, the positivity has changed. And we know this is a guy, I mean, arguably the 6-week start he's had to the season is the worst he's ever been. Like this is a guy who came into the league at 19 or whatever he was. When they won that World Series in Washington, he wasn't allowed to buy a beer. I can't remember him like hitting the ball into the ground at such a high rate, but it was never going to last, right? Like his peripheral stats are so good. His eye at the plate is so good. So I love it. You've got him just at the start of the upward trend, And yeah, you've found him a great matchup in which he can go and do what we know he can do.
Yeah, so it's a modest return, but you're basically betting on, like, you're just assuming, and you never assume, I get that, but you're assuming the Mets are going to win that game, and you get good value on a guy to hit a double. So that's what I'm going with for my first pick. How about your first pick?
Mine is going to be the opposite of yours. You've picked someone who's already shown what they can do and is on the right track to continuing to do it. I am going to pick someone who is terrifying, but sticking with the Arizona Diamondbacks momentum this week. Eduardo Rodriguez starts tomorrow against the Reds, and he had a little IL stint. Honestly think it was kind of like one of those situations I was talking about before where it was just a phantom IL stint, because he had these back-to-back starts in late April, early May. He gave up 8 runs twice, once to the Dodgers, once to the Mets, and then they sent him away to work on some stuff, and he ultimately kind of came back and had a rehab start. But my view is that he was never really that hurt. There was just something going wrong. Surrendering 8 runs to the Dodgers and the Mets isn't great, but they're also the Dodgers and the Mets. If you remove those 2 starts, and I understand that, everyone looks a lot better if you remove their worst couple of starts. That's just how baseball kind of works. If you do remove those 2 starts, though, he's actually been rock solid all year, and particularly in the strikeout department. He struck out 10 on the road against Philly, 12 on the road against Washington, 9 on the road against Miami. He's demonstrated a really good whiff rate all year. And the fact that he's got 52 strikeouts in 44 innings while still owning a 7.05 ERA shows how much potential there is in the strikeout stuff. Even if he goes out there tomorrow and gives up 4 or 5 runs against the Reds, when we're talking about guys like Ellie De La Cruz before, who's the best strikeout man in baseball, I really like the matchup still for Rodriguez. And I think there's been too much overreaction to a couple of those starts to the point where at the start of the year, I was backing his line at 6.5, and the games I mentioned there where he had 10 and 12, I cashed in on, because when he's on, he is well and truly on. Tomorrow, you can get $2.35 about him managing 5 strikeouts. I just don't think that's reflective of who he is as a strikeout pitcher. He's been an above-average strikeout guy for a long time, well before the D-backs signed him. So this year, he's got an 11.7 K per 9 rate, but he's had similar in previous years. He did it in Boston. The Reds are what we know they are. They're boom or bust with the bat. They're 3 true outcomes. If I'm right in that we're going to see 80 pitches from Erod and that sort of minor league outing was more just to figure out some mechanics and get his headspace right. Speaking of, he struck out 9 in that rehab start as well. I think $2.35 for 5 strikeouts is crazy, especially for a team that has just come off some real momentum-gaining wins in Atlanta. They now go to a couple of games against the Reds that they should win, and that's going to start with Erod getting things back on track.
I like it, and De La Cruz could account for half of those strikeouts. So I think there's some value in that for sure. I was kind of surprised when I saw the line was just 3.5 as the over-under in general, right? Now, it's not great value to pick the over, but
that's
still, it's extremely low.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting ones. I looked on Sportsbet, the line's 4.5 and you get the 220. On Bet365, if it ever goes above sort of 220, it's no longer there as a line. They move it down one. So that's where it's like that 3.5 at $1.60. But you go the alternate to get the 5 at $2.35. I think that's crazy. I mean, you won't see that. You won't see that from a starter against the Reds all year, let alone someone who's actually demonstrated, top quartile whiff rate and chase rate like Erod.
So for my second one, I'm sticking with the Avalanche. Haven't dropped an Avalanche this year with an asterisk. It was a Bet365 Avalanche. It was that early season Atlanta Braves, LA Dodgers, which had the automatic payout on Bet365, but there was a comeback. But still haven't lost an Avalanche this season, and now we're into June, which means we're slowly chipping away at a good total here. So I actually kind of like these ones, but there might be a nervy Sunday at play here. There is the potential. So Baltimore is on a 6-game win streak right now. The danger here is Baltimore could be who we thought they were at the start of the year, and this could be a team that is in the middle of a 12, 13-game win streak. It's totally possible. They're going, though, to Sacramento to play the Athletics. I think the Athletics will be underdogs in all 3 of their games right here, which means we have 3 shots to make some money. So they're paying $2.10 at last check in the first game. So I'm going to put a unit on them, and if they lose, I'm going to double down in game number 2, which could, again, be about $2.10. And then where it gets dicey is if it goes to game 3, where I'm laying 4 units and 7 total. but that 4 units might be close to that 250 mark, and it might be a nice little return, to be totally honest. So I am going to go on an Avalanche with the Athletics. Now, Baltimore, though, I should say, they're on a 6-game win streak, and I don't know how to feel about this because in those last 10 games, or in their 6-game win streak, they've only scored 21 runs. So that's 3.5 runs per game, and they've managed to win 6 in a row. So either that means this winning rate is unsustainable, like they're not scoring enough runs, or it means that the offensive explosion is coming and they've just found a way to take 500 baseball and turn it into a 6-game win streak. And now the real damage is going to come with some confidence. So I'm a little unsure about it. The Athletics are playing pretty bad baseball. They just had a lengthy winning streak or losing streak come to an end. They just won, but they're 1-9 in their last 10. But I like the Athletics to win 1 game this weekend versus the Orioles. I don't think the Orioles are going to sweep again, especially on the road, especially with the way the offense is going. But buyer beware. This one has a few risks upon it.
Do you know how many games the Athletics have won in their last 23?
3?
2.
They're 2-21 in their last 23?
Yeah, and they're now at a worse win rate than they were last year. And last year was the catalyst for moving the team. So, look, this is on brand for you as far as trend reversal. This is arguably looking to reverse one of the biggest trends of your Avalanche career, I think, because if I'm looking at this app right now, there is so much red in their schedule, and a lot of these are just not close. What's interesting is they're kind of like the D-backs on a whole nother level in that they're not a bad offensive team. Like, they're scoring runs quite well. They're 5th in baseball on batting average. Like, that's insane for a team that's 24-40. They're 4th in baseball on hits per game. They're slugging 5th best in baseball. They're a team that is just getting it done. Where they're not is they're 30th in baseball for ERA, and they're allowing 10 hits per games. But so are the Orioles, right? Like, Orioles are 28th in baseball in ERA and 28th in baseball in hits. This is going to be which team can somehow get a few innings out of a high-level pitcher. And what the A's have that the Orioles don't is Mason Miller. So if you're in one of these, whether it's I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but if you're in an 11-10 scrap like the D-backs and the Braves today, but you've got Mason Miller up your sleeve, I think you can definitely go out and get a win, because the exact same thing happened with the A's against the Phillies. They sent Mason Miller out 3 days in a row until he finally got a save. So
I like that they're at home.
Yeah,
too.
I think you can take some comfort knowing that they are still actually trying to win despite what their record says. Like, this is very different to teams that are this bad in the past. Like, the Rockies right now don't look like they're trying to win. The guys on the A's are trying to win. Like, Shea Langoliers is trying to be the best hitting catcher in baseball. Brent Rooker is making an all-star case. Like, there's actually guys out there going and trying to build something, whereas the Rockies kind of look like they're going through the motion.
Only bet on Bet365 for this one, though, because you want that 5-run payout if it happens, because the Rockies, I mean, not the Rockies, they're the same thing. A's could easily blow a lead. All right, last pick, Spoon, bring it home.
All right, so this actually touches on the one you went with before. I'm eyeing that Mets at Rockies series as well, and where I'm keen to attack is the team total for the Mets. So the Sunday game, pronunciation pod, Palmquist for the Rockies. He gets the start. He has an 8.5 ERA in his 4 outings this year. He has been rough in a big way. He's got a whip of nearly 2. He's not striking out many guys at all. And as you guys know, when I play team totals, I love to get the away team because they're guaranteed the 9 innings. Whereas when you're playing team totals on a home team, the amount of times I've needed that 1 extra run and they don't go out and bat in the 9th. To your point, guys like Soto have just sort of started to build, but it's kind of going the whole way as well. You know, like Starling Marte's actually finding himself. Brandon Nimmo's been quite good lately. A big series win. Was it a series tie against the Dodgers on the road where they really should have won games 2 and 4? They lost them both 5-6. They conceded late runs in the 8th on Wednesday and in the 9th, I think, today. But if you're going and scoring, 4, 5, 6, 5 in 4 games against the Dodgers, I hate to think what they can do at Coors against the pitching staff of the Rockies. The run line tomorrow is 6.5, so I'm or the team total is 6.5. I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing on Sunday. I've never seen a 7.5. So I'm pretty confident in saying that we're going to be able to get 6.5 for the Mets team total on Sunday against Palmquist. And hopefully we both get a little Mets loving this weekend up there in Colorado and pick up some units for the punters.
So we're going 1 Soto, 2+ bases, and a Mets win. That's around 230, and that's for the first game of the series. We're going A's Avalanche on Bet365. We're going Erod 5+ strikeouts, and we're going the team total on Sunday for the Mets. Obviously not out yet, but around 6. I like that ticket. I think there's money to be made, and that's going to be a good way to end our Friday with those bets.
Beautiful, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's a long weekend for most here in Australia as well, so I'm going to catch maybe a little bit extra baseball, potentially get up early on Monday and watch some of those games, especially if somehow my Destiny draft team can turn it around and I'm watching Bryce Harper go to the plate at 4 a.m. I'll do that. I don't mind doing that.
And alternating days of Stanley Cup Finals and NBA. It's a long work weekend for me. I'm off to Sydney in the morning for the Little League Championships for Australia. Winner goes to Williamsport. That's always a fun event. So I'll talk to you guys after the day's play on Monday. Play wraps up around 3 on Monday. I'll jump on the pod around 5 and off we go.
Can't wait. I'm sure you'll have some stories for us. Probably more insightful than mine will be.
I'll catch you later. Thanks, Spoon.
See you, man.